The reason you feel confident while watching but useless when building isn't actually a lack of talent. It's the exact learning trap that kept me and most beginners stuck until I discovered the only method that actually works. Let me just start off by saying the YouTube algorithm is not your mentor. The YouTube algorithm just wants you to just watch YouTube for as many hours as possible, for you to watch as many ads as possible, buy YouTube Premium maybe. It doesn't show you the videos that you actually need to watch, like maybe it did this time because you're watching a video like me, where I don't encourage you to just endlessly watch YouTube, but we'll come back to that later. But the YouTube algorithm, it only mirrors what you actually click. So if you click on a lot of tutorials, for example, that doesn't mean that that's the thing you should actually click. It's just what you've clicked before. But binging tutorials, it doesn't work. Binging tutorials is like the exact same as just watching a lot of cooking shows about making these fancy meals, and then you go into the kitchen, you try to make these fancy meals, you can't do it because you don't have the understanding of the thing. The only thing you do is you have the recognition of the thing. So even though you might recognize, you might follow along when you're watching the cooking show or the tutorial in this case, you can't actually apply it in the real world without watching the cooking show or the tutorial, because that's simply not how our brain works. You can just watch something and then remember it and be able to apply it. And this is a trap that most beginners actually fall into. And I was stuck in this for maybe more than average, a few years actually. And I've spent maybe around 100 plus hours on YouTube just watching these tutorials. Specifically, what I spent a lot of my time on was to watch full project tutorials, where you just make like an entire project and you don't think at all throughout the entire process. You just follow for like 20 hours or something. It's like a huge playlist of just a ton of tutorials. That's what I watched in particular. And even with these like 100 plus hours of tutorials, I couldn't even make like a simple script, like moving the player even. I didn't know how to do anything. So right now it's very safe to say that you mistake content consumption, like watching tutorials, for actually skill development. So actually learning something and be able to like grow your skill in that thing. Watching and actually learning are two completely different things, especially in game development, where problem solving is such a core and important concept, and you can't watch a video about problem solving. So this trap of thinking content consumption means skill development, it even has a name. It's called tutorial hell. So before we cover the solution, I think it's very important that you first understand why you fell into tutorial hell in the first place. Because it was only after I understood actually why we fall into tutorial hell that I could actually apply what we should do instead. So let's walk through it. The reason why you fall into tutorial hell is that it feels very good, it feels very easy, it feels like very clear. Because watching a tutorial, it's very clear what you're going to do. And it's very like easy, organized, you just follow this step by step. It covers all the problems, it covers everything that you're going to do. Basically every single button that you're going to click, it covers everything. And even the guy on YouTube is explaining it so you can even follow along and think you're actually understanding everything throughout the process. But it's actually the same as just watching someone else lift weights at the gym. Sure, you can see what you're doing, you can understand like the process of actually making a game. So okay, you can like recognize how like coding works, how you are going to like develop a game. Sure, you can use tutorials to recognize how we do that, like watching someone else work out. Okay, sure, this is how you do this exercise, whatever. But you're actually not going to build any muscle. You aren't actually going to develop your game development skill from simply just watching someone. And your brain just loves this illusion of progress that you get when the guy on YouTube is explaining what you're doing and you think you're understanding it. You think you're actually making skills, you actually think you're developing the skill itself. And your brain just loves that. It loves the illusion of progress. You get this dopamine in your brain and it just loves it. And when your brain just loves something, obviously you're going to fall back to it. Without struggle, nothing is going to stick to your brain. If your brain always are going to be accustomed to having this easy solution, it has no incentive to actually remember it in its long-term memory and actually like use its like precious memory and energy to actually storing that information. Because you've only like practiced getting the easy solution for it all the time. And why would your brain use its precious energy and its memory on something that you're always going to have the solution to? Well, the answer is that it doesn't. It doesn't have any incentive to do so. And that's why our brain doesn't. Our brain is not stupid. And the only way to actually remember something is to actually struggle. Without struggle, nothing is going to stick. Like I remember I watched these full project tutorials and I even tried to like guess sometimes, guess what we're going to do next. And I felt like that was quite smart. Okay, I'm going to learn this thing now. I'm going to try to implement active learning, and I'm going to guess what we're going to do next. Sure. Even with that, I could never guess what we're going to do next, because I never struggle with the thing that we're actually doing. I can never figure it out. And when things are hard, like you're watching these tutorials, and the few times you actually try to like pause the video, try to guess what's next, you always just run back to the video because that's the easiest thing to do. Your brain doesn't like hard things, especially if you aren't like aware that we need struggle for things to actually stick to our brain, which we are right now. I'll walk you through what to and like how to implement it next. But if you aren't aware of this, like you've probably been before, and most beginners, they aren't aware of this. So when you aren't aware, we aren't going to want to do hard things. And since like tutorials is the easy thing, we're going to run back to tutorials where everything feels easy and nice and simple and clean. But the truth is that the real world, like actually making games ourselves and having the skills to actually make the games that we want to make, not just follow tutorials or guides or AI, like honestly, it's not going to be step-by-step, like super easy, super clear, super easy, like tutorials. It's going to be really, really messy. It's going to be exactly like trying to build IKEA furniture without a manual. It's going to be really hard. When you're building, you aren't going to have a timeline. You aren't going to have these timestamps on the videos. Like, okay, now we're going to make this system. You're going to learn how to animate the character. Okay, you're going to learn it and remember it forever. This is at this timestamp. You're not going to have these milestones. You're not going to have these like checkpoints. No guaranteed answer. Like this is wrong, this is right. In game development, like real game development, not just following tutorials, you have to figure these things out yourself. You have to plan the game. You have to plan out the milestones. You have to like figure out your own learning curriculum. There's no one that's going to hold your hand to actually learn the real way and in the real world. I'll tell you the most important thing that you need to like rewire your brain to think is that you need to rewire it to not think that confusion means you're not capable, but confusion means that you're actually finally learning. That's like the core idea that you have to like just put inside of your brain. Confusion means really good. Confusion, struggle, that's awesome. Confusion and struggle, that's the only way you're actually going to learn. Right now, you aren't believing that. Right now, you think that's a bad thing, but it's actually a good thing. And you need to remember that. It's so important. And since this struggle is going to be so important as well as building, I'm going to give you this step-by-step framework to actually build. But before that, I just want to say that if you actually want to learn the real way and get ahead of 99% of other beginners, this next step-by-step path is going to be pulled directly from Smartini, but I'll give you the essential idea so that you can start today. But for the full step-by-step plan that takes you from tutorial hell to releasing your first game in only 60 days, you'll need to check out the first link below, and it's going to help you a ton if you want to actually release your first game and become a game developer. So what's the essential idea that I'm talking about? Well, let's go over everything right now. The essential idea is going to be the struggle, build, repeat framework. That's the framework I made that's built upon both struggle and active learning. So first, there are 3 parts of this: struggle, build, repeat. The first thing and the most important thing you need to know is the struggle. What does the struggle here means? We know that struggle means good. Okay, now we know. That's awesome. But how do we actually apply this struggle like practically? How do we actually like actively struggle and have a desirable difficulty? Well, to do that, what we need to do is restrict our information. That's like the best like one sentence thing that I can tell to you right now to like have a desirable difficulty in everything that you do. Try to restrict your information as much as possible. And when you actually seek information online, I want you to specifically use Google, not the AI Google, just use normal Google. Use discussions, documentations. Don't use AI, ChatGPT, Gemini, AI Google. No tutorials. I want you to Google and use these dry discussions and documentations. That's going to be the best way to actually seek information once you actually are going to do it after you have struggled. So the loop I wanted to be in, and you can even start this today, is that you should pick one very specific mechanic that you can do. So try to like make or write as many lines of code that you can remember as possible. Then try to struggle when adding new features. If you can't like figure out the solution within 10 to 20 minutes, like after you have struggled a bit, and try to guess, like sure, you might not know how to do it, but at least try. That's important thing. At least try. Then I wanted to search for like the specific thing that you struggle with. So just search for like one very specific thing at a time. Don't search for like how to make this entire mechanic, but search for one line of code, for example. So how do I get the player input? Because if you search for very specific things, you're going to remember that one specific thing much better. Instead of getting like 40 lines of code and then you look at the 40 lines of code, you can instead search for one specific thing and fully understand that one specific thing. And that's going to be the best way to actually remember something. Then with these mechanics, I don't just want you to just add it and then just move on. What you can do with this mechanic that you have in your IDE is to just break and tweak things around it. So and try to like change where you run the line of code, try to like change a few parameters, change a few like values, just change and tweak a lot of these things. If you do this, then you're going to actually fully understand like the thing, because you know how it's going to work, what happens when you do this, what happens when you do this, because in like your next mechanic, for example, you might want to do it this other thing that you just experimented with. And since you experimented, like no one told you, you're going to remember because you used like a lot of focus to actually like experiment. So you're going to remember it and understand the thing much better if you actually break it and tweak things around these lines of code that you are going to implement. And personally, this is actually where my main learning comes from even right now. So when I'm making games, in between my games, I make these small mechanics and prototypes that I make. I don't use AI for this, even though I might use AI for my full projects. I don't use AI for like the prototypes and experiments in between, because I know if I restrict my use of AI, my use of tutorials, my use of Google, if I just try to like implement things myself first and actually struggle with the thing, just like I'm telling you right now, I know if I do this, I'm going to remember the lines of code much better. I'm not going to be overrelied on AI or tutorials. I'm actually going to be a real game developer. So just follow this struggle, build, repeat framework until they have like simple systems and you know like the foundations to start making small prototypes. And then you can use these prototypes and you can make your first game. But I'll walk you through everything about that inside of Smart Indies. So if you want the entire full guide, then it's going to be the first link in the description. But I think that's everything you need to know right now. Just follow my struggle, build, repeat framework and you're going to get ahead of 99% of other beginners, I promise. It's going to be really good. So if you follow this, you should thank me with a like or subscribe. I've never said hit the like button before, but sure, you can do it if you want to. I don't care. Subscribe button, I value a bit more. So you can do that if you want to. Thank you so much for watching either way.